Daf Chav Dalid. Okay, we're going to pick it up with the Mishnah. Chav Gimel Lamed Beis. Zok the Mishnah. Ezo tam ve'ezo muad. And we don't need to ask what is a tam. Every animal is born a tam. But what the Mishnah means is, when can the animal return to being a tam after it was once a muad? So, ezeu tam ve'ezeu muad. Muad kol shaha'idu by shleisha yamim. They were made about this animal that it did the negicha in 3 days, 3 separate days. That's important. Tam mishiyachzer by shleisha yamim. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. As long as on 3 separate days the animal did not do any goring. Rashi speaks out that it saw other animals and it still didn't get upset. It was able to be kovish its yetzer, if you will, and it showed that it was really a tam on those 3 separate days. That's all Rabbi Yehuda she did. Reb Meir Aimer muad she'idu by shleisha pa'amim. Not different days, but 3 times, 3 instances. V'tam kol shahayu tinekes mishamshin by ve'ena negech. And how do you prove that it goes back to its tamus? Well, if the children can harass the animal and it still doesn't get upset, you see it's no longer a muad, it's going to be a tam. So is our point to show that the animal doesn't now hurt the child or doesn't hurt another animal? Taisus understands that the shar shouldn't hurt the children. Because Taisus Bavarans, even though the children have the mazla, meaning people have more protection than other animals would have, but since the tinaikas are very small, if the shar still doesn't bother the tinaikas, he doesn't start up with the little kids, must be it's now really a tam and wouldn't bother other animals. The Rabbeinu Peretz argues and says, no, the whole issue is whether or not it's going to be negech other behemoths, other shvarim. And in a chanami, the reason why it wouldn't be a rai is because tinaikas atzman, there's yesh mazlan. The other issue over here is the next part of the same Taisus, in Taisus Shehayu, is that Taisus understands that when Rav Meir says if it gores 3 times and then it doesn't gore 3 times, and then Rav Meir says it doesn't gore because of the fact that the kids are staring it, Rav Meir is not arguing with Rabbi Yehuda's idea that if it doesn't gore for 3 times in a row, it won't be a muad. In other words, Rav Meir's maskim to that of Rabbi Yehuda. He's just adding on top of it, Zok Taisus, that if we can prove that it's a tam in different ways, it'll also be a raya. But avada, if it doesn't do anything for 3 times in a row, in 3 consecutive days, that would l'chaira make a chazaka that it's a tam. That's Taisus' shita. The Rambam doesn't bring anything about the days, though, and he seems to not hold that way. And the Amshar Shlomo actually asks on a kasha on the Rambam, why can't we establish a chazaka of tamus from not goring? But the Eliyah Rabbah brings a svara that could be, it's not so pashut that you can make a chazaka of non-action. If it gores 3 times, okay, there's a chazaka, it's a muad. But the absence of goring in 3 times is a chiddush that you can make a chazaka like that. So Taisus is saying it is a chazaka, even according to Rav Meir, but the way the Eliyah Rabbah is saying is according to the Rambam, that may not be so simple. So like the Gemara, my time at Rabbi Yehuda. Why according to Rabbi Yehuda you need 3 different days to establish that it's a muad? Amar Abaya, Timol is chad, mitmel within a mem adds another day that's going to be trey, shil shoim is going to be tilsa, so liyishmer nebayla vason lenigi charavias, and therefore when the owner didn't watch it after that 3 times, on the 4th time it will be considered a muad. So we understand that to be on the 3 separate days, not just 3 different times. Rav Amar, Tmoil mitmoil is chad, shil shoim refers to 2 days. V'leishmerenu ha'id nechayev, that means on the 3rd time. So in other words, it's a machlekes, so this is where Rashi learns. It's a machlekes Rava and Abaya. Within Shitas Rabbi Yehuda, is it going to be on the 3rd time or on the 4th time it's a muad? Rabbi Meir, my time, and according to Rabbi Meir, why can it become a muad even if it all happens on the same day? Tanya, Rabbi Meir, moving over to Amid Aleph, Richik Nigiches of Chayiv, if you're going to spread out its Nigiches over 3 days, it's going to be Chayiv. Kir of Nigiches of Lake Shekain. So for sure, if it's all happening at the same time, isn't that a bigger raya that it's going to now be a shar muad? So Amar Lei Zava Teichiach. We'll get through the Zava stuff and then we'll come back and talk about the Richuk and Kir of Nigi Chaysev. Because L'chaira Zava should show it's not that way that when you concentrate more things in a faster oifen, it's more of a chazaka. Because Sherichaka Re'iyaiseha Tamea Kirva Re'iyaiseha Tahira, if she spreads out the Re'iyais of her Zava Dam over 3 days, she becomes Tameh. But if she does it all in 1 day, she's Tahar. The Rameir would say back, that's not a riot because by Zava, Harei Oimer Vazais Tia Tumasai Bezayvai. So it's Tafka Vizais. This is the way it has to be. So Tola Kosav Es Zav Bere'iyais. It's Dafka on Re'iyais, Es Zava Biyamim. So it's a special set of halachas by Zivus about has to be spread out over the days for the Zava. So like how do you know which way to learn it? Which one's talking about the Re'iyas, which one's talking about the Yamim? So Amar Kra, Hazav Es Zayva Lezachar Ula Nekeva, we darshan, Makish Zachar Ula Nekeva, Ma Nekeva Biyamim, Av Zachar Biyamim. Velakish Nekeva Lezachar, let's go the other way. Ma Zachar Bere'iyais, Av Nekeva Bere'iyais. Now, because Miyad Rachmana Vizais, it makes sense that we're being Mamayit and this. So we said that's Dafka talking about the Zava. We're limiting the 3 different days that's going to be in her pasuk. So Umar Reis, and how do you know that that's how the pasuk has to be read that way? Because Mistabra Kaiber Re'iyas, Mamai Re'iyas. When the Torah is talking about how many times you see it, the see Adam will talk about Re'iyas. Kaiber Re'iyas Mamayat Yamim, but it would make sense if we're talking in the pasuk about Re'iyas, we would now all of a sudden talk about Yamim. That doesn't make any sense. So therefore we're going to darshan it the way we said. All right, but getting back to the idea of Kirv and Richuk Nigi Chaysev. The big raid over here is about the Siman Siba Sugya. And it all starts with the Marame Rutenberg that the Torah brings. That we know the halacha is mesupik about if you said Mashiv Ruach after Shmini Atzeres. So if it hasn't been 30 days, you have to assume maybe you're not murgul in saying it, and therefore you got to repeat Shemina Esrei. So the Marame Rutenberg said, all right, well, 30 days, that's 90 times. I will just say it 90 times. And that's how some people do it. They sing the song. So they sing it 90 times, and therefore you can create the chazaka. So if you're mesupik, you don't have to repeat Shemina Esrei. The Bach points out that, well, hold on, it really should be more because you got Tfilas Musaf on Shabbos, so it should be more than 90 times. But be that as it may, this is the Marame Rutenberg Shita. It's brought in Siman Kuf Yudal Sif Tes, La Halacha, that you can say it 90 times and it works. And what's the raya the Marame Rutenberg brings? He brings it from our Sugya, because you see that there's a svara of if an animal shtaises 3 times on 3 consecutive days, if he does it all in the same day, if that goring happens in the same day, don't you think for sure it's a raya that this animal is a Shar HaMuad? So using that kind of logic, if I pack in 90 times saying Mashiv Ruach Meir Geshem, it's certainly going to create that kind of a chazaka. Frekter Bein Paris, what are you talking about? By the case of the Shar HaMuad, the fact that it does it 3 times is a raya that it is a Shar HaMuad. It shows what kind of an animal this is, that this is a maniacal animal. And if you do it 3 times in the same day, how much more is it a Meshugana animal? But by Mashiv Ruach Meir Geshem, it has nothing to do with showing if you are a Mashiv Ruach kind of a person. It has to do with being Margil L'Shainai, to go ahead and teach yourself to say it, to become accustomed to it. So there's no shaykhs to the Shar HaMuad. Reb Shimon Shkup, in Siman Lamed Gimel, says, you know what the machlokes between the Marame Rutenberg and Rabbeinu Peretz is? How do you understand? Shar HaMuad is the 3 negichais. Is that a siman, that therefore it was a wild, crazy Meshugana animal? Or no, maybe the 3 negichais now change its status and create the matzav of muad. It is a siba, not a siman. So therefore, if I can actually say 90 times Mashiv Ruach Meir Geshem, I can create this matzav and status of chazaka of a person who says Mashiv Ruach Meir Geshem, so I don't have to repeat my Shemona Esrei. Zog the Gemara, Taner Rabbanan Ezeu Muad Kol She Ha'idu Bay Shleishi Yamim. They said Edus that it gored on 3 separate days. The tam shayu tinoikus mishamshin bay ve'ena negeach, and the tam that it was mishamish and it didn't shter. That's Divrei Rabbi Yosi. Now, if you notice, that first line of Kol She'ida B'Shleshi Yomim is borrowed from Rabbi Yehuda Shita. The Tinaikas Mishamshin B'Vinegech is borrowed from Rabbi Meir Shita, so he's kind of crisscrossing here. Rabbi Shimon Aimer, Muad Kol She'ida B'Shleshi Yomim, V'lo Yomer Shleshi Yomim V'lechazar B'lvad. So he does the opposite. He's borrowing one line from Rabbi Meir and then the second line from Rabbi Yehuda. So Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Ravada Barava, Halachak Rabbi Yehuda B'Muad, Shari Rabbi Yosi Maidalei. We're going to paskin like Rabbi Yehuda because of Rabbi Yosi. V'Halachak Rabbi Meir B'Tam, Shari Rabbi Yosi Maidalei. And also we're going to paskin like Rabbi Meir because Rabbi Yosi agreed. So in other words, because Rabbi Yosi picked and chose these different lines from Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, therefore the Gemara says we're going to paskin that way. In fact, the Gemara, Amar Le Raveler of Nachman, V'lei Mamar, Halacha Rabbi Meir B'Muad, Shari Rabbi Shimon Maidalei, V'Halacha Rabbi Yehuda, B'Tam Shari Rabbi Shimon Maidalei. In other words, you have both shitas are crisscrossing different lines from those Tanaim. So Amar Le Anav Rabbi Yosi Sfirli. No, I'm going straight along with Rabbi Yosi because Rabbi Yosi Nimukai Imai. Because of that special Maila that Rabbi Yosi has, that's why we're pasking like Rabbi Yosi Shita. I Boilu. Shleishi Yomim Diktani. This 3 days that Rabbi Yehuda said you need, Liyude Tura or Liyude Gavra? Are we making the shar into a muad or the owner of the shar who owns it into a muad? Of course, we're not really changing the person, but are we being made that the person didn't follow the instructions to watch his animal carefully and therefore we're changing the status of the person? Lamai nafkamina, what's the nafkamina? De asu tilsakite sahadi b'chad yuma. Let's say the 3 sets of Edom that say that the animal gored, they did it all on the same day. In other words, the animal might have gored in different days, but the edus all happened on that same day. So if this edus is going that its muad kite is on the shar, so then of course it becomes a shar. The fact that the edus all happened on the same day shouldn't matter. But the amr liyude gavra lamiyad. But if the whole point is that the owner of the ox has to react to this edus and now do something differently because of it, so meimar amr hikinataina hashtu de kamasadubi. You're telling me this now? Like all of a sudden 3 guys one after the other are coming in saying, hey, you know what? Your shar just gored. Your shar just gored. So I can't even do anything about it anymore. I can't give extra shmira to this shar. I'm just finding out all about it in the same day. So Shaila is, how do we understand this edus about the shar muad? Mai. So Tashmaus bring a raya from the following brisa. Ein hashar nasa muad ad she'idu bay b'fnei bailim b'fnei bezdin. The edus that this animal gored had to happen in front of both the bailim and the bezdin, which is exeris hakosov. However, heidu bay b'fnei bezdin v'shalei b'fnei bailim or b'fnei bailim v'shalei b'fnei bezdin. Ein nasa muad ad she'idu bay Bifnei Bezdin, Bifnei Bailam. It's very wordy. Ayin Muki Yosef that says as far why the Gemara wants to be so wordy. Heidu Shnayim B'Rishaynu V'Shnayim B'Shniyu V'Shnayim B'Shlishis. If 2 Edom came and said about the first time it gored, and a different set of Edom said about the second time it gored, and another kat said about the third time, Harei Kan Shleisha Iduyais, there are 3 independent sets of Edus. V'Hein Edus Achas Lazama, but they all get together for one Eid Zaimim. For one hazama. That means if you can go ahead and you can be mazin these sets of Edom, they'll pay together. Nimtzes kat rishayna zaymemes. So if the first kat of Edom now turns out to be Edom Zayman, Hare kan shtei eduyos, you can still have two more sets of eduyos that remain. V'hu pater v'heim paturin. Therefore, the Bal Hashar is not going to be chayav for nezek shalem, and the Edom that were found now to be Zayman are also not going to have to pay a nezek shalem. Hey, yes, that the animal gored 3 times, or at least allegedly did, but it wasn't a shar hamud that did it. So nimtzis kat shniya zaymemis. Now, if the second set is found to be Zayman, Hare kan edus achas, there's only one remaining set of edus that's going to stick here. So v'hu pater v'heim paturin. So nobody's going to be chayav nezek shalem. But nimtzis kat shlishis zaymemis. Let's say now the third kat turns out to be Edom Zayman. Kulan chayav, and all 3 sets of Edom are now in cahoots to go ahead and pay nezek shalem. That's how the kasher zamam is going to play out. Val zanemar vasisim loy kasher zamam. In other words, you don't say that each one independently now pays their own independent nezek shalem, but the 3 of them divvy up the nezek shalem kite of this punishment. Now, i'amrit liyudei tura shapir. If you're telling me that the whole thing was about liyudei tura, it makes sense that the brisa holds that all 3 groups of the Edom Zayman are chayiv als being a sharmuad. Turning over, eli amrit liyudei gavra. If the whole thing is about the person's reaction, that now they're telling him how to watch his dangerous shar hamud, so lemru hanoch kamoi, let the first kat of Edom say, anon mihavi yadina de basar shleishi yomi osu hani umyadile. Did we know that in 3 days these other kat of Edom would come and make him into a shar hamud? Also, the second kat can also claim that way, that the other one's coming tomorrow. The point is that the earlier sets of Edom here, they shouldn't be chayiv to pay the nezek shalim. So Omer of Ashi Amrisa Lishmaitza Kameder of Kahana of Amerli Uliyudei Tura Minicha. Well, you think this is only a problem with Uliyudei Gavra, but Uliyudei Tura will be okay? Uliyudei Tura will also be a problem. Let the last kat of Edom say, Anon Mino Yadina Dechol Koi Beidina Lasudi Betura Kosu. How are we supposed to know that everybody who was coming to Bezin was giving Edom about this shar? Anon L'chiyuvei Gavra Palgan Nizka Asinan. We only came to Bezin to be Mechayiv this guy a Chatzi Nezek. We weren't part of the cahoots with the other sets of Edom to be Mechayiv and Nezek Shalim. So the Gemara gives 3 suggestions to show, okay, we can get around that problem because we can say they all were in cahoots. Either the Kamarzi or Ramuze, maybe they were kind of signaling to each other that all the Kitei Edom seem to be in cahoots together. Rav Ashi Amar Kshabo Ritzufim, they came one after the other, which was a little suspicious. Ravina Amar B'Makir and Balashar B'Makir and Es Hashar. They only knew the owner of the shar, but they couldn't recognize the actual shar itself. So they can't actually say that you're going to pay Chatzi Nezek because, as Rashi explains, it has to be Migufay. So they have to know about the shar itself. So all that kind of suspicious activity gives enough circumstantial evidence for the Bezdin to say that these 3 Kitei Edom were all in cahoots with each other. So Elahechi Miyadile. Now, just regarding this last thing, if they weren't Makir the shar, how can they make the shar into a mood if they couldn't be Makir the shar at all? The Gemara says, okay, that the Ukimta is going to be Damri Tura Nagchana Islach Vakrach. They said that you have a Tura Nagchana in your herd. It's there somewhere. So Iboilach Lantura Lakula Vakra. So therefore, you have to watch your whole herd. In other words, Edom weren't pointing out a particular animal, but they just said that within your animal, you have this dangerous animal and you got to deal with it. Iboilu. Hamashasa Kalbashal Chavera Bechavera Mahu. Let's say you try to get this dog to attack another person, which we mentioned yesterday's daf. What's going to be the halacha? So Meshasa Vadai Potter, the person who's inciting the dog, he's not going to be chayiv because it's a grama. Bal HaKelev Mai, what about the owner of that dog? Mi Amrinan Motzi Amarle, Ano Maya Vidnahle. What have I done? I didn't do anything. I'm not the inciter. I'm just the dog owner. Idil Amrinan Le, Kivan Diyat Bekalbach Di Meshase Le, Umeshaste, Lo Yibayach Lashuye. You have a dangerous pit bull. You got to get rid of it. In other words, that could be the tain on the owner of the dog, even though some other third party was the one who incited the anger of this dog to attack the mailman. You bring it right from our Mishnah. These kids are poking and prodding at this animal and trying to get it to be upset. It sounds like if this animal would actually attack either the shvarim, like the Rebbeinu parrots, or the actual children like Taisvis, you would be chayiv. So you see, the Bal HaBehema is chayiv, even though somebody else is doing the inciting of its anger. It never says the Baal Ashar would be chayiv. The whole point of the Mishnah is, when can this animal become a tam? Well, it's a raya if tam if it pokes and it doesn't attack. But if it does attack, we're not talking about whether or not it's chayiv. That's not the point. Toshma, shisa bayas hakelev, shisa bay nachash potter. If you get the dog to attack a person or you get the snake to attack a person, you're not going to be chayiv. My lav potter mishasa v'chayiv bal hakelev. This is the diak Gemara made yesterday. Loyema potter af mishasa. Even the one who did the inciting is not going to be chayiv. It's good grama. Omarava im tim tzalemer mishasa kalbo shel chaver b'chaver chayiv. Even if you're going to say that the person who gets somebody's dog to bite somebody else, shiso hu ba'atzmei potter. What's going to be the halacha about the guy who does the inciting? Let's say it turns around and bites him. A little bit of karma going on here, right? The guy who's trying to create the problem, let's say it bites him. Now he goes back to the owner of this dog or the snake. But that owner of the dog or the snake will not be chayiv, because my time, because kol mashano ba'achar v'shina by his potter. If you do something strange after something else was done strange, you're going to be potter. We mentioned this rule earlier. Amar le rapapal rava, it marmish made the reish lakish b'kavosech, the amar reish lakish, shtei paras b'shus arabim achas revutz v'achas ma'aleches. There are 2 cows in Rosh Hashanah. One is squatting down, one is walking. Who bought the ma'aleches revutz patura, and the one that was walking kicked the one that was squatting, the Baal HaKicker is not going to be chayiv. Revuta ma'aleches chayev, but if the squatting one kicked the walking one, then the Baal HaSquatter is going to be chayiv. Amalei anaba hi chiyuva mechayvina. Rava said to Rav Papa, I hold in that case, the Baal HaWalker is going to be chayiv for kicking the squatter. De Amrin lay, because we could say to the Baal HaWalker, ki islach reshusa l'sguye alai. What do you have? You have the right to walk over here, but l'bi'ute bi leslach reshusa. You have no right to kick me. So that's going to be the mashayla over there. But you see an illustration of this concept of kol mashana bo achar v'shina ba is going to be potter. All right, we're going to pick up the Mishnah. Mirza Hashem tomorrow.